I'm Daniel Markham. I live in rural Southwest Virginia, and I like programming, databases, startups, poetry, walking in the park, a long walk along the riverbank, my best dog by my side, the moon full in the sky. Oh, wait, no, wrong video, sorry. Hang on. Hello, I'm still Daniel Markham, and I've had a passion for backlogs for a long time. I started off back in the day going door to door in my small town looking to help people with their computers. That landed me all kinds of programming and infrastructure jobs, which I managed from front to back. I've always been that scrappy startup kind of guy.
Can we get on with this, please? A little faster, a little more interesting.
Sure. The point is that I've worked in backlogs in all kinds of situations. You know, for a while I was specializing in non-traditional agile projects. Lately, a lot of big companies and startups have both asked me to help them. So, I've worked with 2-person teams, I've worked with 200-person teams, in a bunch of different industries. Why, once I saved this baby from a burning building while I was wearing my Superman cape. It was a dark and stormy night. There was a storm coming. Fine. Okay, I wrote the Backlog series of books, Backlogs 1, 2, and 3. Backlogs 1 tells you all about personal and team backlogs. Backlogs 2 tells you about how team backlogs fit in the organization. 3 tells you about aligning backlogs, how to create backlogs that make sense to you, how to make sure the value's in there and they're providing real value to the business. See, the books are all fiction, but the videos you're watching right now are the technical training that goes along with the fiction book. So you get like a science fiction story, then you get technical backlog training on top of that. Is that good enough for you?
Meh.
If you've ever worked on a small team, you're probably familiar with this. It's the storyboard, where you show your backlog and the status of all your work. You know, these things are super awesome. Everybody loves them. Tools like Trello, Basecamp, there's a zillion of these online tools you can get on and create a backlog or to-do list right away. But do you really know how to use the tool? Or are you going through the feature list of the tool to figure out how to set your backlog up? If you are, does that make sense to you? This would be like picking up a word processor, going through the word processing features to learn how to write letters. Yet, for many of us, this is all the training we've ever had in backlogs. If you've been working in a big corporation, I can guarantee you've been working on a big software product probably designed to handle backlogs. You know, sometimes these things are just bug tracking systems, but sometimes they're actually full-featured feature development systems. That's if you're lucky. Some developers out there actually end up with 3 different systems. They end up with a bug tracking system, a feature development system, what features need to be developed, and then they end up with an agile backlog on top of that. That really hurts. Backlog stuff can get very, very complicated.
Yeah, Dad, very impressive. Why don't you show what you actually use your work for?
Okay, you caught me. I admit it. You know what I use for a backlog when I'm working by myself? Post-its on the monitor. That's what I use. You know, but here's the important thing. Those post-its on the monitor are a backlog just the same as the backlog for the next manned moon mission is a backlog. And even cooler, the principles of my post-its and the next manned moon mission are the same. If you can understand these backlog principles, you're going to rock.
Alright, so does that mean the grocery list is a backlog? My list of things I have to do before summer camp's a backlog? Mom's list of stuff for you to do is a backlog? You're saying a lot of things are backlogs.
Sure thing. Anything that gives you guidance on what you're supposed to be doing, anything that's a representation of what's valuable to you, that's a backlog. Backlogs are frickin' everywhere. Trouble's coming, folks. We need to be prepared. Because if backlogs are so central, if you're looking for coming trouble, backlogs are the first place to look. Aside from simply not having the right people, backlogs are the most commonly screwed up thing that I've ever encountered in teams, and other coaches feel the same way. You're going to need to know what the business wants, and the only way you're going to find that out is from a backlog. I don't mean bad backlogs there's a danger for customers. I mean teams too. Bad backlogs mean bad team experiences of developers. Add in tooling, takes a bad to a whole new level. For some reason, talking about backlogs always gets us to some kind of tools discussion. And tools can lead us into that living hell of big tool paralysis. You don't want to go there. Well, I remember a time back in the war.
Dad!
What?
Mom wants to know when you're coming back inside.
In a minute, you're interfering with my heroic pose.
But she says that you promised her last week that you would clean the office.
I said in a minute.
Okay.
This is important stuff. If you think about it, backlogs cut to the core of your entire effort. Are you providing value or not? You know, by looking at the physical shape of your backlog, I can tell a lot about what kind of shape your team's in. By watching your team interact with your backlog, I can see what kind of long-term shape your project's in. Some teams have no concept of why they exist or what's important in their world except for just a week-to-week to-do list. On the other hand, some teams know what they're going to do. They're going to be around for the year or two, and so they keep a running list of things of value and when they're going to provide them, or at least when they think they can provide them. There's no really right or wrong answer here.
So if there's no right or wrong answer, then what are you good for?
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying there's no universal right or wrong answer. Not that there isn't a right or wrong answer for your particular team. Look, when I look at your backlog, I'm looking to see if it distributes real value, or the things that you're doing value for people paying for the team. Sometimes that answer can only be provided in weeks, sometimes months. It changes depending on your business context. Too often, we get the how of the work instead of the what or the why, and that's completely backwards. Here's the thing. If you don't know that you're doing the right thing, none of the other stuff matters. So TDD and source control and all the good XP practices and all the goodness of the how you're doing the work, if you don't got the what or the why right, who cares? Backlogs trump everything. Unfortunately, focusing on the right thing isn't the situation found in most teams. In most teams, we focus entirely too much on the how of our work and not at all, really, on the what or the why. We act like everything in the backlog is just an interchangeable piece of work. And you know what? We need to take a field trip to find out why that's the case.
Mom's not gonna be happy.
It turns out that the way modern managers and developers trying to manage their work both run a business, a backlog, and an agile team, all that doesn't get along. We're going to dive into a little bit of history to find out why. Most of what we consider management is based on, at least in part, on Frederick Winslow Taylor and scientific management. It's established over 100 years ago. As you guys read in the book. You read the book, right?
Wait, Fred the who? What?
Frederick Winslow Taylor. He lived over 100 years ago and is considered the father of modern management theory. The guy that worked at the steel mill, like I talked about in the book, the Backlogs 1 book. Okay, you're going to have to read the book for this video series to make sense. We can cover a bit of old ground in this first video for those who haven't gotten around to it. This all got started when Frederick Taylor watched factory workers at the Bethlehem Steel and realized that with the right process architecture, personnel selection, and training, companies could do a heck of a lot better job than they currently were doing. Taylor said that management should be a science. The business was just like everything else. You could break it down into little pieces, study and optimize each little piece, and then put the pieces back together to make a much better, leaner, faster working thing than before. He had these principles that...
I'm afraid to ask. You care to tell what these principles are?
But, okay. Here are his principles of scientific management. 1. Develop a science for each element of a man's work, and have that science replace that old rule of thumb method they used to use. 2. Scientifically select and train, teach, and develop the men, whereas in the past the workman chose their own work and trains themselves the best they could. 3. Cooperate with the men to ensure that all the work is being done in accordance with the principles of science which has been developed. You develop a science around the work and work with the men to work with that science. And then finally, create an almost equal division of work between managers managers doing the stuff they're good at, and workmen for the stuff they're good at. Managers think, workers work. Scientific management was applied everywhere. Just think of all the production lines that Henry Ford set up making the Model A's and Model T's. Or all those seminars you sat through where the people describe management in terms of science. Scientific management had the advantage of reason and logic. Who wouldn't want to adopt scientific principles? It grew because people liked the idea of using hypotheses, process design, measurements, and rigor to construct their businesses. It made sense to people. The problem was, once you started combining that mindset with technology development, it made a complete mess of everything.
Are we going home now?
Why, yes we are.
So you can clean the office.
Yeah, sure. But first I need to talk to these guys on camera here. You talk to you guys about how Agile got started.
Uh-oh.
Counterintuitively, the more we treat technology development like a manufacturing or industrial process, the worse we make it on everybody. You know, I say this all the time. Technology development isn't manufacturing. Technology development isn't manufacturing. Technology development isn't manufacturing. It's not an industrial process, and the more we treat it like one, the worse we make it for everybody. That's because ideas don't break down the same way physical processes do. And basically, in the modern age, what we're paying for is valuable, executable ideas. There's no limit to the number of ways you can break down an intellectual task, and there's no atom of intellectual work.
So, fishing is a valuable intellectual process?
Actually, Katrina, it might be. If I spend an hour fishing or goofing off or taking a nap or playing Flight Simulator or Donkey Kong and come up with something to save $1 million, it may very well be a valuable intellectual process. It's up here. It's not out there. There's a tremendous amount of variance, a humongous amount of variance and amount of value intellectual work can create. I can spend 1 hour here, make $1 million for you, or take your process to 100th the cost it used to be. Or, conversely, you could spend 1 million hours of labor in an intellectual process world and get nothing at all for it. That sucks. That's just the way it is. Sadly, value isn't related to the amount or nature of physical activity you see in front of you. That's why we have to have some sort of physical token that represents value. Hence, the backlog.
Like the backlog of you supposed to be cleaning the office.
Plus, in technology development, there's no workstation where the idea is worked on a little bit and moved to another station. Work on ideas happens intermittently and over a period of time. You may have a little bit of work on an idea now, then a little bit of work on an idea later on. It doesn't work like things going through a factory. Plus, there's no concept of done for an intellectual idea. When's a poem done or when's a song done? That's just not the way it works with intellectual concepts.
Do you need help?
I'm fine. Heck with it. I've been fishing almost 15 minutes and I haven't caught one fish. Dang lazy fish! You know, actually, this is sort of what managers face when dealing with technologists. Because the more they tried to break down the process stations, the more process stations they got. The more they tried to break down the ideas, the more ideas they got. It was like a big game of whack-a-mole. And so, by trying to break the thing down into smaller pieces and optimize them using scientific management, the only thing they really did was make everybody angry, make huge lists of stuff, make projects that take forever. And that led to the backlash that's called Agile.
They had their own list of stuff. This isn't going to be a test, is it? Oh, please tell me it's not like when you tried to teach us database modeling.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that. No, this will be fun. No, you'll like it. Trust. No, you'll like it. No, you will. No. Agile said that we were doing our values incorrectly. That everybody brings values to a project, and what was happening was by using scientific management principles, we were consistently valuing the wrong parts of projects, and if we wanted to have successful projects and more productive teams, we would change our value system. So What they said we should do basically is value individuals' interactions over processes and tools, working software over documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. It wasn't that one was good and the other we had to get rid of. It was just that we had to place our emphasis in the right spot.
So, what does that mean?
You know, folks say it means a lot, but the basic problem is that the tech folks and the business folks kept losing each other's trust, right? You know, all of us keep focusing on the wrong parts of this, and we get in our own way. Trust has to come first between the people who are paying us to do the work and the people doing the work. And so we have to value the people part of managing technology development more than we value the science part. We've decided that we're not strictly going to work from rigid contracts and plans. We're not going to follow a strict process and generate a whole bunch of paperwork to show you value, because that's, quite frankly, not value. You don't count your paperwork you have in many cases. You care about the value of the ideas. Instead, what we're going to focus on is the psychosocial parts of creative technology work and have that trump the mechanical parts.
Psycho what? Soku? Touchy-feely? Dad, you're not starting with that consulting BS again, are you?
Hang on there, kiddo. I'm not BSing. Sure, some might call this touchy-feely. It's the human part. You know, Agile will do some very mechanical things like create tests first or code in little increments, but all of that is in service to establishing trust and providing value for the business. Creating and maintaining trust for the business. That's what it's all about. You know, Agile has the advantage of speaking directly to the developer about how miserable his work environment was. It grew because people understood emotionally that we were emphasizing the wrong things. So we had two completely different ways of looking at things. We had the mechanical, scientific way of looking at things. We had the human, creative way of looking at things.
So there was a problem.
There was a problem. Managers keep chasing after scientific model for creative technology development. Where's the ball? Where's the ball, huh? Here you go. Bam! You know, and developers keep chasing after a human, social model for technology development. So what's your model? Is it science? Is it art? Service work? All these mental models you choose make a big difference in the kind of project you're going to have. And a lot of times you choose a model whether you realize it or not. And the models you choose, they're going to cause problems in your backlog. Don't get me wrong, these mental models used as tools can be very valuable. Scientific management and Agile are both valuable in different ways. They both have a proven track record. It's even possible to get away with solely using one model for a long time. But the thing is, because intellectual property work is so different than manufacturing, you're always going to need parts of both those models. And sooner or later, the two are going to come bouncing up against one another, and it's going to create a disaster.
So like cats and dogs? Yeah.
Scientific management doesn't get along with creative technology development at all. And Agile practitioners and business-minded folks continue to struggle. Take the product owner. The entire idea of the product owner was to have this magic person that could bring work to the team. This was like the team was working a little shoebox in the middle of the road, and this product owner guy would kind of leave the box from time to time and come back with a list, a magic list of stuff. Yet, for those of us who've been working in the consulting world, it feels a lot like a cop-out. It feels like a way to artificially limit the scope of the work the team's doing so that you don't have to really answer tough questions about what the work really is. Teams continue to struggle with this idea of this magic guy that gives them lists of things to do.
Why not just train this product owner guy better?
That's a good question, Katrina. You know, the product owner's missing in action in most Agile training. And when the product owners do get trained, too often it's just in the mechanics of being a product owner, like reading charts and graphs and who's responsible for doing what on a scrum team. Nobody actually goes over the most important part of the job. How to know what goes on the backlog and how to prioritize it so that you get the maximum amount of value. You can bet you we're going to cover that in this series.
So now you go clean the office like Mom asked, right?
Sure. Right after I think a little bit about what to tell folks about what's coming up next. Chicken.
Dad, wake up!
What time is it? Huh? Time for Star Trek?
Star Trek was in 1968. You were 3.
Who are you?
Remember me? Your daughter, Katrina? You were gonna tell people what was coming up next.
Oh, what's coming up next? Yeah, jeez. You know, it's easy to get frustrated when you're reading about backlogs because a lot of times what the authors do in their books or their videos is they talk about greenfield or like projects you're starting from scratch. Well, you know, we're not going to do that. I'm not just going to talk about new projects when it's backlogs. I'm going to talk about all the common project scenarios you might experience. There's small greenfield projects where it's you and a few other guys working for a few weeks or months on some sort of completely new project. There's large greenfield project work where it's a team or maybe even a team of teams working on a completely new project for months or years. There's small legacy systems where it's you and a few guys making some changes to an existing system over time. Then of course there's the big legacy systems where it's a team or a team of teams working on a system or system of systems, and that could go heck for years. Those are huge deals. There's non-standard projects where you're doing things like architecture or strategy or training or things that aren't necessarily associated with technology development. And then finally there's startups. And startups really for me are where the rubber hits the road, because with startups the things in your backlog have to provide value or you die. And so we're definitely going to hit startups when we talk about backlogs.
Oh, great. Hours of you bloviating online. Joy. Just, how many of these am I going to have to help you with anyway?
It'll be fun! Remember all the fun we had learning Two's complement?
No.
Ah, come on, it'll be a hoot. We got this introduction video. There's going to be 8 in all, okay? Got this introduction video we're doing. Then next up we're going to do well-formed backlogs, what makes a good backlog item or a poor one. Then we're going to go on to physical backlogs, you know, how they appear on the wall. Then we're going to do story splitting and testing. Then we're going to do sprint planning, then sizing and release planning, lightweight tasking, kanban. And finally, what's my favorite, don't do this, which goes over all the failure modes people have with backlogs and all the agile practices. You know, you could go a long ways, simply by not screwing things up.
Then we'll be done, right?
Well, kinda.
Oh.
No, you gotta remember this is just part 1, which is all about individual and team backlogs. Part 2's coming up. Part 2's going to be about team backlogs and program level backlogs. And then we're going to go into part 3, which is the main event, the big kahuna, backlogs across the organization, combining with lean startup to find what goes in the backlog and what order to provide the maximum amount of value to your customers and your business. Isn't that exciting? But it's a long time away. You'll probably be in college or retired or something. Don't worry about it. Instead, how about this? Let me show the folks at home what I'm going to expect them to do.
You'd better start showing Mom that you're going to clean the office.
Yeah, I know already.
She gonna kill you?
Goodbye. Chicken evil. Chicken take over everything.
Action!
You've got some work to do. You know, none of this is going to mean anything to you unless you pick it up, sort it out, and use it in your own life, even if it's just for personal projects. You know, some of this is going to be non-intuitive. You know you're getting it if it starts to stir debate in your work life. Fair warning, this is going to change the way you think of backlogs. So a bit of negative feedback's a good thing, as long as it's not too negative. Whatever you do, stick with it. The books are easy fiction reading. The videos shouldn't be too bad anyway, no matter what some folks might think of it. If you keep an open mind and experiment, it's all going to come together, I promise.
Like magic, right?
No. There's no magic bullet here. All I can do is teach you the why and how things work. Why and how good backlogs rock out over poor ones. I can promise you that you're going to get it. I can also promise you that once you get it, you'll be on your journey to having a rocking backlog. But hell, I can't promise you that the boss is going to change overnight, that your organization is going to become super cool, or it's all going to work out. I wish I could, but I can't. You know, the neat thing is getting out on the other side, because understanding about backlogs will help you cut through a lot of the other clutter through in the Agile community. You know, so many fads, experiments, or movements are all built about not understanding how teams are supposed to know what to do, what the real value is in an organization. Once you get this, it'll clear up a lot of that other stuff and make your life a heck of a lot easier. You know, maybe it's time we found something to do outside. You think so, huh? Saddle up, because we got a big adventure ahead. You're going to have a blast. You know what's next up? Well-formed backlogs. Get ready.
I'm not ready.
I don't care. Ready? Psycho
no,
what? Psycho. Action!
But I gotta write the thing.
Action!
It doesn't make
Conform!
7:47 on my. Action.
You know, by looking at the shape of your physical backlog, I can tell a lot about the shape of your project.
Action.
So we had two completely different ways of looking at things. We had the scientific and one way of looking at things. Here's principles of scientific management. Develop a science for each element of a man's work, which replicates. Very good. Don't tell me that. Again. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm not saying there's no universal right or wrong answer. Not that there just. There's a small project waiting for you somewhere out there. A small project waits for you.
No, bad.
Chicken. Chicken.
Let me see it. Dad, it's okay.
Here's the.
What time is it? Is it time for Star Trek? What? Huh? Star Trek's on. Time for Star Trek.
What is happening?
Are you shooting?
Action.
Managers keep chasing after a scientific model of creative technology development. Where's the ball? Where's the ball? Who got the ball? Got the ball? They're not going to. The dog's not going to read the script. There's no rough in the script. Okay, cut. I promise you that you're going to get it, and I promise that once you get it, you'll be on your journey to having a rolling backlog. Chopping into their tasks.
Wait.
Make sure the back goes.
I know.
Okay.
Action.
Well, kinda.
Okay. It's a bouquet of chickens.
Chicken bouquet.
Scene 67. Take 4. Action. What is that for?
I'm excited. I had to. This is a scene excitement scene. People are looking forward to these videos.
This, my friends, is the person teaching you.
I teach you the way of the bigger backlog. What I use, Post-its on the monitor. You know, that's the backlog. It's Post-its. I love them.
It fell off.
Don't take my Post-its from me.
He can't start it.
Sit down.
Yeah.
Sit your Batuski.
Words, need my words.
You woods? You from that place again?
These people.
Action.
No, there's no magic bullet here. You know, all I can teach you the how and why things work. Why and how good backlogs rock out over poor ones. I promise you that once you're going to get it, and once you... I promise you. I promise you. Da, 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 da.
Okay.
Bring the chicken and beat me with it.
Hang out with my homie. Wait, Jack, come join us. We're gonna game.
Look out.
Jack, come back.
I need some more water.
Jack, come back.
You just know where we're going next. Is this the last one in the office?
No.
We really got another office one.
There's one you get the
Oh, with the keyboard, oh yeah.
This is the Daniel in its natural habitat. Hard to find. That is why.